Welcome back for another 5-minute message. My name is Brian Steele, and I have the privilege of being the pastor at St. Paul United Methodist Church in Bloomfield Hills and Hazel Park United Methodist Church. Today we are talking about some more holy and sassy women of the Bible. Today we're going into the New Testament, specifically the early church, the book of Acts, chapter 12. And being a Christian in this time meant that you weren't going to be sitting with the cool kids at the lunch table. More than likely, if you became a Christian or were supporting the cause of Christians, your life was on the line. And this is what we see in Acts 12 from Mary, the mother of John Mark. We start the story with Peter. Peter was a pretty big deal for the early church, and he was a wanted man. And he had just miraculously escaped from prison, and kind of like anybody even would today, you escape from prison, you need a place to hide out. And he knew Mary was a friend, and her house was constantly having people praying and people worshiping, coming in and out. So he went and knocked at her door and found that people had been praying and were so relieved to see him, and he told the story of his miraculous escape. But this story, and it's so easy to overlook, the story is about Peter. It focuses around what happened to him. But it would not have turned out the way it did if it weren't for Mary. Mary was willing to use her assets, her home, as a place of refuge. And let's make no mistake about it, if Mary had been found out in this case, she probably would have lost her life. And Mary was probably a widow who had received at least a pretty good inheritance from her previous husband. She could have led an easy, comfortable, private life. And instead we see her hosting a bunch of lawbreakers. Now Mary's probably a little older now, so she can't travel like she used to. But she saw what she still had to offer. She saw what was in her hands and gave it as an offering to this new movement of Jesus. She's not concerned with her personal safety. She is only concerned with being faithful to the Christ she has come to serve. And she probably learned about this Christ from Peter. Mary's house had to have been so important to this early Christian movement for Peter to get up and know that he could go there. He knew that Mary would be staying true to the faith and that he could count on her to protect him. She willingly laid aside social conventions of only looking out for yourself and risked not only what she owned, but essentially risked her life. And it's interesting when we think about it, because we see a trend in society where the more money, the more assets, or the more property people have, the more protective of it that they become. They are afraid to risk that because it could result in a huge loss. But that's not what Mary does. Mary knew that even if government officials rushed into her home, if the worst came to pass, Jesus wasn't leaving her. She found grace by taking this risk. She found that having no other options other than just depending on God was the safest place she could possibly be. Mary did something that was dangerous by society standards, but it was considered safe in the kingdom of God. It was safe because when we follow Christ in the risks, we can rest assured that we are safe in God's hands. So that's another holy and sassy woman of the Bible. Check out some of our other services across our social media and read the Bible and don't overlook some of these amazing stories of powerful women who sometimes are just hidden behind the scenes. That's it for today's message, friends. We'll see you next week. Go in peace, knowing you are loved.